Hello, hello, hello. So today we're going to be going over the Varese. It has entered public testing as a patch 14.2. And yeah, this ship is a very interesting experimental ship that World of Warships has decided to add. This ship has over 100,000 HP. And it's essentially identical to the Michelangelo in every way, except instead of it having a base secondaries of 7 kilometers, this has a base secondaries of 8.3 kilometers. Also, it has a very similar fight or flight compared to the Oregon, the Viasma, and the Met, but instead it's going to be built into secondaries instead. So the fight or flight that's on these set of experimental ships, the Varese, the Hotaka, and the Protector, they have it where when they meet their minimum thresholds or as they lower their health, they gain secondary range and they get a better secondary reload. So for the Varese, it starts off at full HP, which is a major difference compared to the experimental ships that are going on right now, the Oregon, the Viasma. These ones start at full HP, and as it lowers its health, all the way down to its minimum effective hit point threshold of 25,638, it can get 16% firing range increase and a 30% quicker reload for the secondaries. So as you start from full health and you go down, it slowly gains that maximum stats for the secondaries as it goes on. So it's going to be kind of obvious that the Varese, the Hotaka, and the Protector are all going to be secondary ships. These all are going to be secondary ships. And the major difference is these ones start off at full HP rather than the previous experimental run starts on half HP. So that's a major difference. Also, the fact is that for survivability, this thing can have over 110,000 HP. It's a lot of HP, and I know a few of you guys have been wanting to play the Michelangelo or been wanting to get it. Well, this is your chance to play it whenever it does enter the game. I don't expect these to be in the game for a while, since the current set of experimental ships are supposed to end in 14.7. So that's many months down the line. If you guys are wondering why it says purchase right here, these are not for sale for this. This is just a mod that I'm using to be able to take a look at these ships. So that is what I'm doing. But yeah, let's take a look at the armor real quick of the Varese or the Michelangelo. Has a 27 millimeter bow and aft with a 40 millimeter deck, with a side armor plating of 100 millimeters and then a citadel plating of 200 millimeters. The citadel is partially above water, so you don't just want to show your broadside in this ship, as if you do, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So yeah, definitely be careful in that regard. So also the Varese has a burst fire and the modified shells that are on the Oregon. So it has the same special AP with the special ricochet angles, the short fuse pen, and the faster shell velocity. Now it does decrease the range, just like the Oregon, by 32% when you do switch over to the burst fire. And you get 72 shells with the special ammo, and of course you get the Michelangelo guns. So you have AP and SAP for the Varese, and the secondaries, of course, are secondary. Sorry, they're SAP. I don't know why I said secondary, but yeah, they're SAP. So these secondaries can do a lot of damage. If anyone here has a Michelangelo, you can write down in the comments if you do, but you know dang well that these secondaries do a lot of damage. So also with the fight or flight active all the way, the secondary range for the Varese goes up to 15.1 kilometers. which is the second longest secondary range. Well, it's tied for the longest secondary range with the Liberta, which has a 15.1 kilometer. So, yeah, this thing is going to be a secondary monstrosity when it enters the game. I've already seen a lot of people testing it currently, so that's going to be quite interesting. But everything else is the same. The torpedoes are the same. The depth charges are the same. Anti-air is the same. Maneuverability is the same, and the concealment is the same as the Michelangelo. So we'll just take a look at the Michelangelo and the build that we would theoretically put onto the Varese. Since none of us have played the ship, so we can just talk about the build we put on the ship. So we would essentially put the exact same build we have on the Michelangelo onto the Varese. So we would build in the first slot is going to be auxiliary armament for the secondaries, then hydro surge modifier in the second. Third slot is going to be secondary battery modification. Fourth is going to be propulsion. Fifth is going to be concealment, and sixth is going to be secondary. Also, for the Varese, does it have the exact same consumables as the Michelangelo? That's something we didn't talk about. Does it have the exact same consumables?
No, it has a very different set. If you have Michelangelo, you know one of her core consumables is the exhaust smoke.
Mm-hmm.
That is missing here on a Varese.
Okay.
You only have the heavy repair teams, which is improved repair party, and you have Hydro. The Hydro is still very useful considering how large these ships are, but the loss of smoke is likely going to be a significantly impact on how the gameplay plays out. Because you can't, without that smoke, you don't have the ability to just instantly go dark and potentially turn away, or just YOLO at the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it seems like Wargaming intends the Varese to instead rely on her only 100,000 HP pool to instead carry the day with her durability.
Mm-hmm.
The heal also is improved. It lasts a bit longer, 45 seconds, as opposed to the standard 28 or so.
That's a pretty long heal.
Yep, and on top of that, the cooldown is much shorter at 60 seconds, so kind of similar to other experimental ships.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty big heal. How much heal does that do for the Varese?
So it's, let's see, it comes out to about a third of the HP. I'm just doing it on top of my head.
Okay,
Which
that's a
is
lot of
quite substantial.
yeah, that's a lot of HP. But
And
the Michelangelo also isn't a super tanky ship, so that's also understandable for that heal.
yeah, the Michelangelo, assuming it has the same hull as Michelangelo,
Which it does.
well, yes, same characteristics. The Citadel's not very well protected, so one big issue is just that if you show too much broadside, you just get your Citadel destroyed.
Wait a minute.
Varese,
Wait a minute. I think that the Varese has a thicker hull compared to the Michelangelo. It has a
well,
27 millimeter hull, while the Michelangelo has a 25 millimeter bow. That's a big difference. 25 to 27. I think that's a pretty big difference.
it lets it bounce 15-inch guns, but the massive majority at tier 10 is going to be 16-inch and up. So unless you're fighting like 500 Borgones, I don't see it being a difference.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that difference. I was just looking in between. I was like, huh, wait a minute. There is a slight difference here. The Michelangelo does have a slightly thicker bow and aft. The Varese does compared to the Michelangelo.
You do have that 40mm side armor, so if you stay angled, you will bounce even the 18-inch guns.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure, for sure. So for the build for the for the Varese, in theory, this is the build that I would run anyway. You'd be trying to get your consumables back quicker, and then the enhanced consumable there. But yeah, this is the build to be running. Of course, you want to build in the secondary range, so Pack-a-Punch, concealment, and then the top grade gunner. So you can just use the exact same build you have for the Michelangelo on this thing. So Nothing really too particular there. You could switch in theory, the consumable specialist to gun feeder if you want, but it does cost like a lot of points to keep switching your commanders over and over and over again. So if you want to do that, sure. If not, it's also fine. But I don't know. In theory, that's just what we're like in theory theory throwing for the Varese. But yeah, it's a lot of HP for a cruiser, over 100,000. That's a lot of HP. So I'm very interested to see how its testing cycle goes and when it does get released, because we have no idea when. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add, SAT, about the Varese or Michelangelo?
So it's interesting to contrast the two philosophies for the experimental ships. So the first batch we got was the ships start at low health, but you get you get the effects right off the bat. But for this set of experimental ships, you actually have to commit your ships before you start getting the fight or flight effect.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like Wargame is trying to test more data, see which concept is more viable. And especially in this case, they're heavily leaning into the secondary viability combination with fight or flight. If you can get past if you can get past the 100k HP memes, then you might be one. Then we'll see if the secondaries might prove to be uh, a good addition to fight or flight, or might be overpowering. Only wargaming will tell.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Well, thank you all for watching today's video. If you guys have any questions or concerns, let us know in the comments down below. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.